There you have it. That's the vote on account completed. The interim budget has now been concluded. The road is now cleared. Let's look at some broad themologies of what has just taken place. Ladies and gentlemen, the tax rates are not changing. Okay? The underscoring of that has been done in no unclear terms. The tax rates allowing exemptions at 7 lakh rupees are at India's, of course, record high, and no change in tax rates. Let's look at the broader themes for those of you expecting a major SOP-filled budget. Well, there are no SOPs. Nothing is coming from the budget speech. Of course, there will be devil in the detail, but other than the continuity of the existing schemes, which can be politically argued as SOPs or no SOPs, this budget has not come out and said we are going to be giving away free this, free that, free this, free that, free this. Okay? We're going to be cutting everything and we'll be putting everything on a hike until elections are completed. So if you're looking for SOPs, this is a low on SOP, high on continuity, and a long-term vision budget that has happened. Some big takeaways, let's pick them up. For the first time, a union government scheme to provide for housing for the middle class, which means like the Awas Yojana, you can either build yourself and get help or have an opportunity for a renewed urban housing mechanism has been put together. That is a big takeaway. Ladies and gentlemen, an unprecedented push for India's R&D sector with a 1 lakh crore outlay has been put into place. So let's just take you through the broad themology of what has happened. Okay? The message from this budget is, number one, that India's time has come. We are at the cusp with a clear roadmap to be laid for Viksit Bharat, for a developed nation status, that it has arrived and we will put together and lay before the country a roadmap on the last mile until we can call ourselves a developed country. There is a positivity, confidence, pride themology, okay, which has been underscoring this particular budget speech. The core message is India is doing fine. Inflation is stable, fiscal deficit is under control, growth is healthy, on all forex reserves are doing good, the markets are doing good, that despite everything, both at the microeconomic and the macroeconomic level, as far as our country is concerned, okay, despite global headwinds, despite all the wars that are taking place, India is doing fine on all fronts. That's the core message that has been put together in the speech. You can debate the message, but that's the core message that has been put together in the speech. Not for the first time, but I think now it's been concretized, it's been underscored plenty of times. The PM himself said this in Parliament a few months ago. Inclusive delivery is the new secularism. This has now become almost gospel ideology. And that's the message underscored in this budget. That this is not about two nations, this is not about Hindu, Muslim, this is not about North and South. Inclusive delivery through our schemes, regardless of who you are, is the new secularism. So if you're looking for an ideological theme in this, that's the ideological theme that is coming out of this. The 4 pillars, and the Prime Minister has spoken about them, so they're not new to you, but they've been underscored and then thematically compartmentalized in this budget on women, farmers, poor and youth. The PM has called these the 4 castes recently. That's been underscored by the Finance Minister. So women, farmers, poor and youth. Okay? This is no doubt has been a performance and delivery report card of Prime Minister Modi's 10 years. The message is that projects are being completed, there is good management, waste has been ended, some 2.7 lakh crores have been saved just through ending inefficiencies in waste, that this is the process by which the government is doing a better job. And the one political targeting attack that has happened in the budget speech is that the finance minister has said that we will come and lay a white paper before the Lok Sabha telling you how the previous governments till 2014 mucked it all up. The lessons we have drawn from our successes. So now you can argue whether that's a thematic exercise or political exercise, but that's been pretty much the only political targeting. Or if you were looking for politics, election politics in this budget, all you are getting is a white paper soon to be tabled on how the previous government mucked it up and how things are being done better under Prime Minister Modi. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, India is on the road to ending abject poverty and the never-ending quagmires of Bijli, Sadak, Pani. We are almost at the cusp, and the reason I say this is a thematic change that is taking place, that we are at an era where promising Bijli, Sadak, Pani is over because they will be delivered in saturation. Abject poverty, finished. Bijli, Sadak, Pani issues, finished. This potentially transforms, forget the economy, transforms the way Indian politics will be conducted, which has been based on these promises for more than my lifetime. Ladies and gentlemen, beyond that, look at the strategic information that the budget has told you. The budget is telling you that India is now entering the globalization space in a new way. When it comes to global finance, through the gift city and other models, we are open for business. Okay? So all the Dubais and the Singapores and the Hong Kongs, which are based on this model, India is going to have a nerve center for these global financial hubs as well. So we are open for business for global finance. It has been underscored in this budget, both in talk and action. Okay? And equally importantly, a strategic look at global trade. That's the first time I've seen somebody in a finance ministry position talking about a strategic look at global trade. Now that means multifarious thing. That means the Indian Navy is making sure that ships coming to India are safeguarded from pirates. That means that the IMEC corridor and all the complexities of the diplomacy and geopolitics there are being looked at very seriously. Big deal, big item, big ticket. Okay? Next generation reforms intention has been declared. Okay? Now what those reforms are has not been mentioned, but next generation reforms. Now of course that will be left to a new government which is being formed, and of course the finance minister is hoping that it is under her boss, the Prime Minister, that the new government will be returned. But an intention has been declared by Prime Minister Modi that when I come back, I'm ready for the next generation reforms. Okay? Period. Money where mouth is has been put on R&D, as I mentioned, 1 lakh crore. India's economy has now been put on a green energy transformation path for 2030. Not an incremental growth, not a 5%, 10%, multi-X transformational path. Solar energy has been an example of the past 2-3 years. So we have actually done it, and an intent has been cleared that this is not going to be incremental, this is going to be transformational. Equally transformational is the blue economy push, which is the EEZs, the continental shelves, all our islands, okay, not just the fisheries, but the blue economy. So that puts you into context of what you've seen as a broad theme in this budget. Let me quickly open it up for conversation and comments. Mithali joining us, General G. Dwivedi is with us, General Dhruv Katoch with us. Let's quickly start with you, Mithali. Mithali, what are your big takeaways?
Morning and afternoon, sorry, Rishabh. I think I've been doing this since 7 a.m. So I'm very excited by 5 announcements. The first is the coverage of Ashas and Anganwadi workers under the Ayushman Yojana. Because this is a huge announcement. It will really help the care workers, the 2.5 lakh care workers of the country who are currently not receiving any social security benefits. Number two, the announcement on transit oriented development. The fact that, something we have been arguing for in a lot of our work to decongest cities. And, this transit oriented development being fueled not only by metro rail, but also by the regional rapid transit system, the Namo Bharat, and by an expansion of investment in buses. This is a very far reaching initiative because this is going to decongest our growth centers. Then I'm heartened by the fact that the fiscal deficit is coming at 5.8% of GDP. This is much better than what was expected. Everybody was expecting that if it's 6.8, it might come to 6.3 or 6.5, but 5.8 has far exceeded expectations. Number four, I'm very heartened by the focus on youth and the fact that this 1.3 lakh crore youth innovation fund for technology has been set up, because this will really provide the impetus for youth led development as well. And number five, the focus on MSMEs and the fact that regulatory barriers are currently preventing MSMEs from upscaling is a huge recognition. It's the first time a finance minister has actually recognized this for MSMEs. And I think this will be a game changer.
Okay, don't say labor reforms, but regulatory barriers. Now, of course, this is being left to legislative exercises. Okay, so we don't know what happens there, but you have a statement of intent. Now, the question is effort where the mouth is. What is the time left? There's nothing much going to happen in this parliament session for sure. You don't know. It could happen. Okay, one thing we learned with Narendra Modi as Prime Minister is that anything can happen. Okay, don't take it for granted that this is this way of doing things. So nothing out of the ordinary will happen, or the mos maiorum will not be disturbed. It could be disturbed. So you could see dramatic reform in the next couple of months. Maybe not. Okay, maybe next week the budget elections get announced and we head into an electoral practice. But ladies and gentlemen, once again, if you're looking for major SOPs, a poll-oriented budget, I haven't seen it. Okay. And that's the as honest an estimation I can give you. There are aspects to this, of course, which are populist because they affect people, which is what the budget is supposed to be about. But if you're looking at doles and giveaways, they haven't come. You haven't even got a tax cut. Okay, quick thoughts. General Dwivedi, your quick thoughts.
Well, Rishabh, I think some of the issues you already flagged and highlighted, but I'll give you a perspective which is bifocal. One is on the strategic dimension, and second is how it actually going to be realized. After all, the push has to come from within. I think this budget clearly lays out that India is going to be a global player, and therefore what we should be doing in next about 25 years. And to that extent, I think we need to look at what was in the budget from the domestic angle and what we looking at the global angle. First and foremost, I think domestically today, I am more into academia, teach MBA courses and international relations. Therefore, youth, is a critical mass of our country. And that's about 65% people under 30. And when I am in the classrooms or on the campus, I find there's a general kind of uncertainty about their future, because why everyone is heading outside. And I joke in the class that today visas are open, all this class will be empty, either sitting in Canada, US or thereabout. So therefore, we need to assure our youth that their future is bright and they are going to be the prime movers. How Amrit Kaal or where India is going to be in next 25 years.
Yes.
So therefore, I think the skill development of the youth, the youth for focus is very, very
General Dwivedi, let me quickly touch base with everyone. I'll come back to you. General Katoch, your quick thoughts, please.
Been a very sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rishabh, I think this has been a very balanced budget, and it is not a populist budget, which I think is a very great achievement. That is the first point. Second, I think there's a great deal of thrust on economic development, whether you take it as part of the, improve the welfare of women or of students, etc., etc. But ultimately, the thrust is on economics. There was also a little bit of mention about demographics, but I think much more, in my personal view, much more needs to be done on demographics if you really want to get your economy up. Unless we control our populations, your cities are not going to get decongested. You can do anything. You can put in a number of buses, trains, do what you like. But all that will result in is getting more people into the cities. So you need population control measures. You need to control that demography, and there has to be something done
Okay.
on this basis.
Okay. All right.
Just one
Yeah.
more point. Just
Quickly,
one
quickly. Yeah.
small
Go ahead.
point.
Go ahead.
I think as a major reform, what hopefully will come about in the next budget or right now is reforming the bureaucracy. This is one area which was left in the first tenure of Mr. Modi, and it was partially addressed in the second tenure. I think when he moves into his third tenure, we require very radical changes in the way our bureaucracy functions.
Okay.
And if that comes about,
Okay,
India's path
till the
is
election is
assured.
over, is still an if and when. But yes, farm reforms are pending. Large aspects of labor reforms are pending. Remember, the farm reforms were withdrawn; they were overturned. So we don't know what happens. We've been told next generation reforms, exactly what those will be. Generally, reform is a good word. Okay. Of course, the devil and the fight is, of course, in the detail of what you mean by reform and where that reform will be. You know, labor reform and agricultural reform are not easy, let alone trying to do bureaucratic reform. That's going to be a tough onion. General Katoch has a wry smile on his face because he knows exactly how difficult that is going to be. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, your quick thoughts, sir. Can we have him? Can we hear him? Can we unmute him? Can we get it going, please? Wing Commander Sudhakaran, if you can hear me, your quick thoughts, please.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what I would like to quickly say is, being an interim budget, while there is optimism that has been kept in mind, they have still not yet gone full way forward, because they will have to still come back to power and then present the whole budget, which I believe that they will do. So last 10 years of growth, yes, it's been an unprecedented growth. We have reclaimed it's been a cultural renaissance of sorts for India. Ayodhya will transform. It will probably get the UP economy kick-started and going towards the 1 trillion mark, which is essential for India reaching the 5 trillion mark. All these are good points. But, what is more important is investing in next gen. Modi has already taken India from that poor, not so important economy that it was in 2014, where it was all about scams, to an economy which is stabilized today. We are talking about political stability. Okay. We are talking about global leadership that was seen in the G20. So now it is for us to march towards the status of Vishwaguru.
Okay. I know there's a larger picture, sir. And, I'm more than happy to spend a lot of time on larger pictures, because sometimes the small fiddling can just consume you. But I want to go through the basics as well. There's no point having a budget discussion not reflect on the basics. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, no tax cuts across the board, zero. Said no, we're not doing tax cuts. We've already done enough. Fair enough?
Well, see, tax cuts I don't think is that important, because we will have to find money for funding our projects. What I am now talking about is streamlining the funds to the correct sectors. See, while it is very important to uplift the economically downtrodden, which has been the case for the last 70 years, we need to invest in our tomorrow. Okay. And tomorrow is in technology.
Okay, all right. You're happy, no tax cut, no problem. You're happy with it. Mithali, no tax cuts. We got something last year. Nothing, import duties, subsidies, nothing. No, we're not sorting that out this time around. Unusual before a budget.
Yeah, absolutely, Rishabh. I mean, it was expected that in this interim budget, we will not be seeing much of a tinkering on taxation, much of a tinkering on duties. It was expected to be sort of like a vision document, and the full budget for 2024, 25.
So this is fine. It's on form. Yes. It's perfectly reasonable. No tax cut, no problem. General Dwivedi, I'm sure you receive a pension, sir. I mean, all of us can use a few thousand rupees extra per year to spend. So no tax cut, no problem. Fair enough?
Well, I think a tax cut is not so relevant, but increasing the ambit of taxpayers, that's more important. We are just still about 90 million. I think this needs to enlarge, because until we enlarge the tax base, I think we are not going to be doing very much by doing the tax cutting or corner cutting.
Okay. You can argue that if you lower the tax base, if you lower the taxation, more people end up, and you can have that long-winded argument. I'm not going to have it right now. The bottom line, General Katoch, no tax cuts.
Very frankly, Rishabh, I'm with the rest of the panelists here. It doesn't really make a difference. I look at it in another way. There should be tax stability. So every year, based on political consideration, the taxes should not go up or down. They should be constant. And I think we should maintain a level of consistency, not just for this year, but for the next decade or so.
Okay, so we've reached sort of that zone where there's consistency. The tax filings have definitely become a lot easier. The tax refunds, I can tell you from personal experience, have definitely become a lot quicker. So that's good news. Ajay Prakash joining us. Ajay Prakash, on the issue of tax cuts, no problem?
No,
Fair
there
enough.
has to be no problem. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah, sort of. Bad connection, but we'll try to do our best. Yes.
Okay, let me make it.
Okay. We'll come back to you when we come back to you then. Okay, so now let me take up the second thoughts. Mitali, housing scheme. First time I've heard it for the middle class. The devil is going to be in the detail, obviously, and we'll get the budget document shortly. But as statement of intent that if you're a middle class person wanting to build your own home, government will come and help you with not just a percentage subvention, but potentially funding. The Awas Yojana has done this to the tune, I think, of 2 lakh rupees or so. But what about the middle class housing scheme?
So I think, Rishabh, this is a little bit harder to implement than the Awas Yojana, because in the case of the Awas Yojana, there is a ceiling of how much money is to be spent on a particular house. It's about 15 lakh rupees. That is the amount of benefit that is given. Also, if we look at the Awas Yojana, of course, it is fantastic that 70% of Awas Yojana beneficiaries are women. But there are certain problems with the scheme when we look at the regulations.
No. I'm going to tag you back down to this so that we can do it one on one. Otherwise, we'll go on all sorts of the 40,000 tangents we can go into, obviously. Okay. So just on the quick thoughts on Awas Yojana, Janil Dwivedi, just come into this. There are a lot of people in the middle class who always feel left out. Okay. That the corporates at the big level get all the duty incentives and all the schemes. There is obviously a lot of DBT that takes place for farmers and etc. Middle class gets nothing. You've been told that if your house is old or decrepit and you want to rebuild, or if you have a plot of land somewhere that you procured but you can't afford to build a house, we are going to help you. Similar to the Awas Yojana, we don't know to what amount, but a good happy thing to happen.
Absolutely, I think, Rishabh, because owning a house in India is one of the, I think, very important cultural segment of ours. And secondly, when you build a house, you are building the nation, because so much of money goes into the infrastructure building, house building. So it will also have a very, direct impact on the building of the economy. So I think this is a step in the right direction, but I'm sure details will be worked out. But the thrust needs to shift from the big builders to the individual builders, because that's where
it's been problematic. It's been problematic, and that's what the thrust is. The thrust is telling you build your own house, okay, and we'll come and help you. Okay, Mitali, quickly on R&D, 1 lakh crore rupees. It's a big statement of intent. I know it's easier said than done. But can we actually look at India now cracking this R&D problem?
So I think, Rishabh, this is one of the most biggest game changer announcements today, because if we look at the Startup India scheme and the Stand Up India scheme, that has benefited lakhs of people across the country, who are trying to set up their businesses, and they have been able to get loan financing at concessional rates. They have been able to get some small grants as well, and not just in big cities, but in tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, and even somewhere in, going down to tier 4 cities. So I think this innovation fund, this fund, if it is distributed to good incubators in like the IITs, and if it can go to good incubators in the IIMs and other institutions of eminence, it can reach innovators who desperately need this money and can be, the fuel for India's R&D in the next decade. So it's a good investment.
Okay, Wing Commander Sudhakaran, R&D, money where your mouth is on R&D finally. Okay, we've been discussing this for many, many years. Your thoughts?
I still don't have clarity because, I'll quickly tell you, for the quantum and the AI program, they announced 6,000 crores last year. Where did that money go? If you're going to spend it on the same DRDO establishments, on the government entities paying that same salary and say that I spend 6,000 on AI, that doesn't mean anything. Money has to be put in the private enterprise. That's where research innovation and invention happens. It doesn't happen in the government lab. We know how government labs operate, and that is where it is very important to, it is not only important to say that I'm going to give X thousand crores, but then how are you going to disperse it? Today, none of your schemes cross more than 10 crores. And let me tell you, the H100 class of GPUs which are required to train the LLMs that we know, we don't even have a single indigenized LLM. And it requires thousands of GPUs to train this. We are talking about thousands of crores for one language model to be trained. And there is no way that in India
I was having that debate last
kind
night. I can well imagine I'll be having that conversation with you tonight, because yes, if you want to get into AI, good, bad or ugly, it's better it is here. Okay, then be sitting somewhere in San Francisco, or even worse in Shenzhen. Okay, so good, bad or ugly, challenges or no challenges, it's better the technology be developed here. You need the supercomputers, you need the GPUs, you need the data sovereignty we've been talking about for so long. Otherwise, it's all gone to Google, which is making Bard, and Microsoft is, of course, now running ChatGPT. But on R&D, a statement of intent, I know that the proof of the pudding is in the eating, General Katoch, but there is a clearer statement of intent now.
Rishabh, the statement of intent is very clear, but the weakness remains in the accountability process. Now, unless people are, especially the government organizations that are held accountable, the money simply disappears. And then there will be a range of excuses being offered. So unless we have a certain measure of accountability, while this is a positive step being taken by the government, I think much more would need to be done.
Okay, it should not just be clever accounting. It should be earnest, and the money should be found. Money can be found, but the clever accounting, as Wing Commander Sudhakaran was telling you, that if you're spending the money anyway, it's like saying the defense budget. Okay, the defense budget is anyway being spent. You have pensions to give, you have salaries to give. And that doesn't necessarily mean defense acquisition has dramatically increased. So no sophistry, money where mouth is fine, but proof of the pudding is in the eating. Those are the aphorisms I can throw your way. Atul Gupta joining us in the broadcast. Atul ji, your quick thoughts before I take some specifics with you.
Dear, as I mentioned you that as far as the taxation aspects are there, and this is I will say the limited budget. So I will touch upon a very important point as far as the GST is concerned, that in the GST, there was an issue related to the cross charge. The companies were facing that when the head office is providing the certain services to their branches. So there was I will say a very litigative issue was there in the market, and that issue was trying to handle in this budget.
So you are doing checkbox, the 25,000 rupee dispute, now chapter closed, this is a checkbox. This is done. Now, it's a relief, sir, but it's not any cost to government, because it's not a budgetary exercise, because the government is just writing off potential dues, which were anyway disputed. So it's not like the money was coming tomorrow if the dispute has been going over 60 years. Does it unclog the taxation system a little bit? Atul ji?
Yeah, because there will be small demands of 5,000, 10,000 rupees are there. And by virtue of that, the long pending litigations are happening. So the queue was long, but having all these kind of a small amnesty scheme, I believe, will give the relief to the thousands of small SSCs who are getting a demand of 5,000, 10,000 for small type of non-compliances or some mistakes or technical glitches at the earlier stage in 17, 18, 18, 19.
Okay, so it's a procedural thing. And these procedural things, of course, are important. Dr. Prabal Roy joining us. Before that, let me get Ajay ji, who hopefully can hear us now. Ajay ji, your quick general thoughts before I ask you some specifics. Ajay Prakash.
As far as I see, the overall budget, this is although an interim budget, but what it points at is that it is going to look at the whole of the country. So it is not about those specifics, whether the pension has been improved or not, whether there has been some kind of an individual taxation or not. If we look at the things, everywhere there is a consistent coverage of each and every section. So maybe the existing schemes as they've been, they are there. Maybe we talk about tourism. So now we understand that is one of the core sectors where we think the industry should move. We've been able to build an infrastructure and market ourselves in the international market. So there is some scheme for tourism. And maybe there is some kind of a background infrastructure which is ready for it. So that kind of issues is what this budget is trying to aim at.
Okay.
Maybe once again,
Okay,
fine,
just stay with me. Dr. Prabal Roy, come in. I just want your general thoughts first before we get into any specifics, sir. General thoughts. Dr. Roy.
General thoughts, yes. General thoughts, hello and good morning. Are all very positive. I'm sure the government is looking at all sectors and ensuring that everybody gets its due as much as is possible with the help of the government. For health budget is something that interests me the most. And any increase that the government is going to do is actually going to go down to the last person who requires the care that has to be provided to that person. Rural health, mental health, these are the areas that are of great interest for the entire nation. That is actually at this point in time a very young lot, which is likely to grow old in a course of time. Therefore, infrastructural development in healthcare is something that I believe is going to go a great way forward for healthcare and for the healthcare of the people of this country.
Okay, all right.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.